Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I have a full coverage, long wearing, bulletproof foundation routine for you guys. This foundation routine is definitely for the girls that like, or guys that like, full coverage and long wearing makeup. This is especially good if you are doing maybe like a photo shoot and you need your makeup to last all day, or in extreme like weather conditions, or if you have a long, grueling work day ahead of you and you want to be like all put together, but you want your foundation to stay intact without having to worry about touching up or hassle of it breaking throughout the day. Just as a disclaimer, this is very full coverage, this is very long wearing, so the foundations I'm going to be using in this are pretty on the heavy side. If you are someone that doesn't like heavy foundations, or you like that really sheer and natural, you can still see my skin kind of look, don't even bother watching this video. You are going to absolutely hate this. But if you are looking for something that's full coverage and long wearing, then definitely stay tuned. Hopefully maybe you can incorporate this into your routine, or you'll find it helpful in some area. I personally like to do this foundation routine on my work days when I am freelancing and I have to be starting very early in the morning and finishing late into the evening, and I need my foundation on all day, especially if I have time to put makeup on in the morning. Then I definitely like to utilize this routine and my time to look put together, as well as I'm glamming up others. So hopefully you guys, have a need for this or like a use for it. And if you do, I hope it works out. So if you guys want to see how I get this full coverage, long wearing, and I mean long wearing, like this will last me all day, like more than 12 hours. I never wear my makeup like into the next day, so I don't know about 24 hours, but I mean, I can imagine it probably would work. But yeah, it absolutely doesn't break. It doesn't start to, if anything, I get just a little bit oily, but that's okay for me because right now I'm pretty matte, and I do like a little bit more of like a slight glow demi matte finish. So I'm okay with oils pushing through at some point, but I don't look like an oil slick at the end of the day also. So anyway, that's all I have to say about the foundation routine itself. So to see how I do it, keep on watching. Alright, so I only have skincare on my skin. I don't have any primer because we're going to do that right now. Whether I'm doing a full coverage, long-lasting look, or even just a light sheer look, I always use primer. I'm someone that swears by it. Some people think it's a gimmick product, but for me, I think primer really does help with the makeup application and the longevity, whether you're doing sheer or whether you're doing heavy glam. So, what is your primer? Usually when I'm doing my full coverage, long-lasting, bulletproof foundation, I either have been using lately the Soap & Glory One Heck of a Blot Primer, which if you guys follow me on Snapchat, you guys know from my little mini tutorials, I use this like all the time. Or recently I've been using the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer as well. Something that is gonna just keep my skin smooth for the application, because since we're using heavier products, it could really accentuate imperfections. So both of these do a great job at smoothing my skin. This one does a little bit better job of keeping my skin matte. This one not so much, but it does prep my skin really well. I actually think I'm gonna use this one today. I'm gonna have this foundation on all day. So just to kind of help combat oil, that's why we're gonna use it. What I like about this primer also is that it's a little bit looser in consistency. It's not super thick. Here's about the amount that I use. And just with my fingertips, really I focus this first on the areas I get oily, which is just the center of my face, and then I start to blend it outward. So now for the foundation. So my concoction that I discovered when I was just kind of playing around with my foundations, and what I found to be like the most full coverage and long wearing foundation routine that I have ever tried on myself, was using my Urban Decay All Nighter foundation first, and then I go over with a light layer of my Cover FX Total Coverage Cream Foundation. As mentioned in the video at the beginning, a disclaimer, this is very full coverage, and both of these foundations are considered heavier foundations. If you're someone who doesn't like the feel of that, then just don't even watch this video because you're gonna hate the way this feels. Also, both of these foundations are really great for oilier skin types, normal to oily. So if you're on the drier side, just forget this whole thing. I would assume you could use the same technique, but with foundations that are more geared towards moisturizing and luminous wears, as opposed to these that are meant for like a more matte long wearing wear, if that makes sense. So there are long wear foundations that are geared towards dry skin. Check those out and see how that works for you. But for my oily girls, we're gonna use these. So the thing to remember with these foundations is that since they're both heavy, you don't wanna apply too much too soon. What I've learned with this Urban Decay foundation is that a lot goes a long way. It reminds me a lot of the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer, where just like the tiniest drop covers a really big area, and obviously it's very full coverage. So we're just gonna use the tiniest amount of this. I am in the shade 1. Oh shit, I've been tagging 1.5 in my Instagram post. So literally like maybe 1 pump is all we need. I'm just gonna start to kind of dot this on my face. So the reason why I think this works so well is because the Urban Decay is a very long wearing, like super long wearing foundation. So I think it creates this base, since we're using it first, that just creates like this lock. Once it sets, it just like is locked on your skin. So I think that's what it does. To blend this out, we're gonna be using our Sigma 3D blender. If you guys follow me on Snapchat, you'll know that I mentioned that I don't really care for this for blending out foundation and concealer, but right now this is the only clean sponge that I have. And I like this for baking more than anything, but we're gonna use it and just, it'll still work out, it's fine. But use your favorite blender or brush of choice. That way I would recommend doing this routine with a beauty sponge because it will pick up excess product so you don't apply way too much. That's also what helps with this foundation routine. So the foundation is blended out. I'm not focusing any of the product underneath my eyes since this foundation is very matte. I don't want to dry out my under eye area and load it up with a whole bunch of product. So as you can tell, that 1 pump covered everything. Really nice. I love this foundation on its own, by the way, but like I said, this is my bulletproof routine. So now I'm going in with a light layer of the Cover FX Total Coverage Cream Foundation. I got the shade N20. It's like this. And I think it's a dead-on match for my skin color. I loved this color. Like, if anything, the color range for Cover FX is immaculate. You have so many shades to choose from. So now I'm gonna be picking up the foundation with my beauty sponge, like so, and just going over everything. As much as I like the Urban Decay foundation by itself, I actually don't like this one by itself. I'm actually really just liking it for layering on top of other foundations to give me a fuller coverage. And I decided to test this out because of Amra, or Amrazy on Instagram. I know that she uses the Armani Luminous Silk Foundation and this one combined, and I was like, wow, like, that's so ballsy to layer these foundations like that. And I was like, well shit, let me try layering it with something and see what happens. But it's sometimes what you gotta do. You just gotta like, just do something to see what happens. What I love about this foundation too is how well it covers my pores. By the way, even if you are very oily, I would suggest to at least have a light layer of moisturizer on before starting this routine. Both these products are very matte. You don't want your skin to be too dry because then they're gonna be really hard to blend out in the long run. So now that these are on, like the coverage and the texture of my skin right now is so smooth. Yes, it's so smooth. Like I love it. Like I love this type of foundation look. That's just me. So now that our foundation is on, I'm just gonna conceal and highlight. I'm gonna be using my Revlon Color Stay Concealer. This is in the shade Fair, and I've really been liking this concealer a lot lately, especially also as an eye primer. So we're gonna hit it underneath our eyes, like so. I'm actually not gonna drag this out too far down. I really just only want to conceal the most discolored part of my eye because the foundation kind of already got everything else. Turn that one down a little bit further. And then we're just lightly gonna highlight our nose, Cupid's bow, center of the chin, and center of the forehead, just for balance purposes. Okay. Super careful with my brows because I kind of messed up when I was doing them earlier. I did my brows before everything else. Like I just love the way my cheek looks right now. It's just so like perfect. This is the look, like this is the kind of foundation that like makes people look like unrealistically good. You know what I mean? Like no pores, no nothing. Like their skin looks like a doll, like a mannequin. Not everyone likes that, and I get it. Like I do get it. But I like it, you know? And you know, maybe not every day, but from time to time, you know, like it's not a bad thing. I love sheer. I can appreciate sheer foundation just as much as the next girl. And I can also appreciate heavy foundation as well, so no discrimination here. So now that the concealer is all blended out, we are gonna now move right into, you guessed it, you cannot do a long wearing foundation routine without some baking. Well, I mean, I guess you could, but for me, baking is also what really, really helps this look. I'm not gonna do cream contouring. You could if you wanted to, but to be honest with you, when I'm doing this foundation routine, I skip cream contouring because I already have like technically 3 layers of different cream products on my face already. So I just don't wanna overload it too much. If it's like if I could just cut out at least one more thing, why not, you know what I mean? But by all means, if you feel comfortable with it, then go for it, go for it. We are gonna contour it with powder later. So now that we're gonna do baking, one thing you need to make sure with this foundation routine is if you have any type of lines where your foundation tends to settle, so for me, my laugh lines and forehead lines, foundation will always settle in those lines if it's a very heavy foundation. Since these are 2 heavy foundations, what you have to do is bake those areas. So for baking, I'm gonna be using my RCMA No Color Powder, running real low these days. And I'm gonna put it into the cap of just of this one. I don't really use this powder, but oops. I like to use the cap to just kind of put the powder in, you know what I mean? RCMA needs to come out with like a little thing like this. So before you bake any areas, you are gonna wanna make sure you blend out any creases. So like right now, as I was talking, my eye creased up a little bit. So they're kind of like random spots to bake, but those lines you obviously don't want showing up later, so bake them. I'm actually just gonna bake the entirety, like the whole center of my face. Now that we look like a powdered donut, so we're gonna let that set. And for the areas that we didn't bake, I like to just lightly, me personally, like to set the rest of my face with just some type of sheer powder. You can still use the RCMA No Color Powder, but I actually like to use something that's my skin tone because I feel like the RCMA powder, even though it's translucent, it actually does help brighten slightly, and in a good way, not like in a ashy kind of way. So I'm just gonna use this to just keep the tone on the rest of the areas where I didn't bake the same as my skin tone. So I'm gonna be using this. And I like to use a very large powder brush. This is the Lexi 502 large powder brush. And I'm just gonna take some here. I'm just gonna literally press it on just to set it so it's not technically wet foundation. So once that is set, normally I probably wouldn't have done my eyes already. And I would leave on this baking until I was done with my eyes, and that's probably gonna be like a good 10 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of wait a little while and then finish off the rest of my makeup because that's basically the whole foundation routine. Everything else as far as bronzer, contour, highlight stays the same. This was just the foundation routine. So I'm gonna kind of wait a little while and then jump back in and come back to you guys when I'm done so y'all can see the finished look and you'll be on your merry way. Okay, so the rest of my makeup is done. The last thing for this long wearing bulletproof foundation routine is gonna be setting spray, which of course my favorite one is the Urban Decay All Nighter. I find that this one just works the best and it really does keep everything intact for hella long. So you just wanna be really generous with this. Just like primer, I really, really do believe in setting sprays. So douse yourself. And that completes the whole routine. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you find it helpful for those of you who also like really long wearing full coverage makeup looks. I hope this routine is really good for you. Let me know if you guys have found any concoctions of your own as to what provides really good coverage and also really long wearing results down below in the comments. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.